Greetings everyone, and welcome to Animated Night in the Dojo. Today's featured show, Hazbin Hotel, Season 2.
Yep, Hazbin Hotel, Season 2, Episode 7. Welcome back to the dojo. I'm Ryu. I'm super dead. That's Age. He's probably slightly less dead, and we're back for more Animated Night in the Dojo. The last week of Hazbin Hotel, for the moment. Amazon, next season, if you guys are releasing this at midnight, I'm going to do everything in my very minimal power to something. I'm just saying. Release it at like 5 p.m. on any weeknight, you know, Eastern or Pacific time, or noon on Saturday or Sunday. I don't care. You know, make it a hour where the majority of people can freaking watch it and not be spoiled when they get up in the morning or whatever. Because too many people out there, I've seen a lot of groups that have like a 48-hour spoiler thing. Yeah, that's not the rest of the internet. You know what I mean? You're going to get up in the morning and see it. So
I already got spoiled at like 3 a.m. this morning.
Yeah. So it's just out of control. Like, even if we weren't doing this for like a YouTube channel or something, I'm not going to watch that at midnight. You know what I mean? I'm just not doing it. I stay up pretty late, but we mostly, when we're watching stuff, we're done around midnight. So it's just one of those things. So it's a very stupid release time for a show. I'm sorry. It just I know you're not like competing in like a time slot demographic because it's just a streaming thing, but come on. You know what I mean? Just put it up at a reasonable hour on a reasonable day. The best time is probably like, you know, Saturday at freaking the middle of the afternoon or something, or 5 o'clock. You know what I mean? 5 o'clock on a Saturday is probably the best time, Saturday or Sunday. The most reasonable hour with the most people that won't get screwed over. So,
yeah.
I really hope that more people have complained about this. I sure will, and have, again, every time. So, you know. Anyway, that being said, there are a lot of eyes all over the place. We talked about the potential, like, what the deal is with those. So we'll just have to see if that comes up at all in these last 2 episodes, if they, like, tease that character, if they tease Rue at all. Because of, like, how Vivian's keeping that character under wraps after kind of, like, putting it out there initially, that kind of thing.
Yeah, she originally, like, showed off some basic concept art and, like, the idea, some of the basic ideas of Rue way back fairly early on in the project before it really took off. But then as soon as it started taking off and a lot more people were giving eyes on it, she quickly shut up about Rue.
Yep. So, either way, we talked about what's going on with the episode title is pretty obvious. I mean, we talked about how that thing Carmela was working on is probably like a Death Star laser or something. You know, if it has any kind of heaven magic behind it with all the angelic steel they're using, then, you know, it's probably a threat.
No, once again, it also is, they intend to use Lucifer at its core, and Lucifer is, granted, a fallen angel, but he's still an angel.
Yep. So, lots of crazy stuff going on. Hopefully I slowly wake up for this, but we have to get it done before anybody gets any more spoilers. So, yeah. Luckily I avoided it because I've been asleep for the last, like, 16 hours, and I feel like crap. So, you know, I can't get spoiled when I'm asleep until they start doing the Futurama thing where they start beaming stuff into your head when you're asleep. You guys remember that? That was super old school. But anyway, we're going to push some buttons and get going here, so people on Patreon will see you on the other side of the edit for the timer reaction, and people on YouTube review and discussion. So here goes something. Well, alrighty then. There you guys have it. Definitely a pretty solid episode across the board. My train of thought's gone. I had to go deal with bullshit after we finished the reaction, and it's gone. I have nothing. I don't even know where to start because of stupid nonsense, so We got Vox's past.
Yeah.
I will say that during the reaction, I did point out his whole his arc of going from weatherman to like head of the network with bodies piling up around him would never happen. I'm sorry, it's too improbable. He would have gotten caught after like the second guy. You know what I mean? There's just no way. So that's the major problem I have with this, is maybe they sensationalized it a lot, but the way it was portrayed, it's just like, no? Like, any rookie investigator would have him pegged as, you know, suspect number one of who's been benefiting from all these deaths. Vincent. You know what I mean? So, at the very least, they would have started really keeping their eye on him. Like, hey.
Yeah, it's one of those things of like, no matter how much you suspect a person, unless you actually get proof, you can't do anything about it. And we know that Vox is extremely good at spinning things. Also, you know, we don't know how quickly his cult formed around him that could have been protecting him.
Yeah. But it's still one of those things where, could I believe something like this could happen? Sure. But another thing that doesn't make sense is his track. You know what I mean? It's, you go from weather guy to lead anchor to basically a late night talk show host to whatever that last thing was before he was like the head of the network here. It just doesn't track to me. That's not like a standard career path for most people in broadcast. You know what I mean? Like, once you hit like head anchor, if you're in like the news business, that's probably where you're going to be at. Maybe it'll be like a producer or a director or something later, but you're not going to bounce around to different like venues, you know what I mean, like late night talk show host or this kind of thing, or, you know, whatever the other thing was. You know, you're not going to go from like a cooking show to a this show to a that show, you know what I mean? So it's just kind of weird from that standpoint.
So Vox's freaking
he was moving sideways. He wasn't moving up until the end, you know what I mean?
His Vox's sin is envy. His biggest issue he has is anyone else having power that he doesn't. So it's like a thing of all the people he was killing was he was just going through and killing anyone he felt was getting more popular than him.
Yeah.
And then, you know, friggin' redressing himself to take their position and show that he did it better.
Yeah. Which is fine, but, you know, once again, for me, just this line of him pulling this off, very improbable. Not impossible, just improbable. You know. So a guy like him, could he pull it off with everything that he's shown off? Sure. But I don't know. To me, it just, from the viewer's perspective, the way it's portrayed, especially for me, it was just, nobody noticed this. Like, no one. I understand that, like, from everything that we've seen from the mortal world of Earth in the Vivziverse, people seem to be even dumber than the average. So maybe somebody with Vox's ability would be able to just get one over on, you know, anybody. You know what I mean? So if, like, take the what are they called? The, like, people that are looking into catching demons in Hell of a Boss.
The dorks.
Yeah, the dorks. If they are, like, one of the big-time organizations of, like, a higher echelon, like, secret covert ops kind of deal, and they're that dumb, then, yeah. Then if you look at it from that standpoint, we've seen a lot of, like, the average human on Earth is incredibly dumb. In this universe.
From everything we've seen in the Helliverse, the freaking mortal authorities are completely incompetent.
Yeah.
dorks are one of the most competent members of the freaking government law enforcement and shit like that, and they're still a joke.
Yeah. So if we take that into account, sure. All right. You have to take in-universe stuff into account. So that is what it is. But hey, we got some random bits of trivia. Vox has heterochromia, 2 different eye colors, and he got killed by a TV falling on him. So there you go.
We finally got a actual explanation for the TV head, and his shark aspects seem to be just based on his personality, combined with the fact that he literally killed someone with a shark as one of his sins.
Yeah. So there you go. As you can see, that TV floating above him was like his original TV head style that he had earlier on in his Hell days. Like when he made that deal with Baxter that we saw, that happened earlier on in his career. And like I said, with the whole Baxter stuff that we'll talk about in a little bit here, Baxter's been around Vox Tech probably longer than anybody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Baxter's actually probably largely responsible for a lot of Vox's innovations, because like he himself isn't really much of an inventor. He's just, the figurehead of the corporation and the one who gets things done through freaking coercion and blackmail.
Yep. So,
but he doesn't really come up with the technology.
Yeah. And that's what Alistair's, continually making digs at him for. So that's also part of Alistair's plan, is to keep pushing him to getting more pissed off to the point where he does become stronger than Alistair, so that in theory, by legal verbiage of his contract with Rosie, that should break the contract, because then if Vox becomes the strongest sinner, then Alistair should be released from his contract.
Yeah,
based on stupid legal shenanigans.
Yes, if Alistair's no longer the strongest sinner, then either the contract becomes void or Rosie has to step in and do something about it. We don't know which.
Yeah. Because, once again, we talked about this before, but it's worth mentioning again. The deal was that he would be the strongest sinner. That can be interpreted many different ways with that kind of verbiage. That leaves a lot of nebulous gray area of, does that mean all the time? Does it mean right then? Like when he first comes to hell, he'll be the strongest sinner, but then like the next day somebody could become stronger than him and it doesn't matter, and that's not on her. You know what I mean? So,
well, once again, from her own wording of how it works, it seems to be just a constant thing, because once again, like her premise for refusing to help him when he came to her was that the deal was that I'd make you the strongest sinner and you still are.
Yeah. So
I don't have to do anything.
Yeah. So either way, that's just the Alistair plan is one of the bigger things going on in the backstory, or the background of this. So that's definitely a thing. But I think this was a pretty good backstory. All the songs in this were good. The callback to It Starts With Sorry, like I mentioned at the end of the reaction a little bit there, was I think that'll be like the constant, because It Starts With Sorry is the first step to redemption.
Yeah, once again, the first step to redemption is having the conscience to feel guilt about your sin.
Yep. So I think that'll be it'll probably be worked into some song in every season of this show. The way they worked it in with Pensius was great. It is interesting that Pensius is getting a bigger role based on. It'd be kind of interesting to see, just like from the backdrop of the series, like storyboarding wise, like, okay, so now that Pensius is a big deal, what do we do? And now arguably he's one of the most important characters in the series because of all the stuff that he's done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, once again, for being a one-off villain who was meant to only be in the pilot to he being one of the most important characters in the series now, they must have had to do some pretty significant rewriting to move intended events to be revolved around him instead of other characters.
Yeah, so it's definitely a thing. Just it's probably one of the bigger things that, like, in recent memory that like a team has had to do, because this isn't just like making May slightly more relevant in My Hero Academia. You know what I mean? Does she play a pretty big role, like, in the Final War stuff that's going on in that show right now? Yeah. But what Penchis is doing, that'd be like if Bakugo was a side character and then became Bakugo. You know, or was like a one-off character, like a one-week villain or something, or, you know, transfer student, whatever. Like, just a one-off character, and then all of a sudden, no, now he's Bakugo. It's like, you got to kind of like eyebrow raise it, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, like, once again, Serpentius is full-on Nanachi levels of just like the entire story was rewritten to include the character.
Yeah. So
because once again, Nanachi was supposed to be written out of the story after the whole meaty thing.
Yep.
And now Nanachi is a main character who is in every story arc.
Yep. So it's definitely interesting to see how that kind of has evolved in the background and stuff like that, and especially with him being the first one to be redeemed, and now he gets to invent something.
Yes,
because
he gets to invent two-way communication between heaven and hell.
Because there's nobody else in heaven that has any tech expertise, right? Nobody was a tech guy. You don't have like a firmware engineer up there or something. Just everybody was what? Like, what are you trying to say? No winner has any like sustainable real life skills. What are you trying to say here?
Einstein isn't floating around up there.
Einstein's not up there. Like, nobody. You got nobody. You know, I know Tesla's like a bad guy, but come on. You got nobody up there? What the hell? We obviously know why, because you have to revolve around the main cast. You're not just going to pull some random person in, but come on. It's just like one of those things that's kind of interesting to think about with, like, especially like to the end of like everything else that's going on with the other characters. You know, like when Vox talks about how like, oh, I'm going to rally all of hell against you. It's like, no, you're rallying the Pride Ring and the sinners. Like, so what does the rest of hell think about this? And obviously we're probably not going to get that, but it's just kind of like an interesting thing to think about from a meta-universe perspective of, you know, could you imagine just like Satan or something hears about this and it's just like, he's doing what now? F that guy. Well, you know what I mean? We don't need this.
From what we know, he's not going to be in this season, but Satan is confirmed that he's going to show up in Hazbin.
Yeah. Like,
the voice actor in Vivzi confirmed that he's been in the studio and recorded lines for Satan. Satan for Hazbin specifically, not Helava.
Yeah, and we've already got him in Hell of a Boss with the trial of Blitz. So,
yeah.
It's just one of those things, because even the Seven Deadly Sins as what they are, they would probably oppose this. The Princes would oppose it, and the Goetia would probably oppose it. You know what I mean? So you'd probably have the majority of the rest of Hell going, what are you doing? You know what I mean?
No, as it stands, he's managed to mobilize a reasonable portion of Pentagram City, but not even all of Pentagram City, let alone the other 8 circles or any of the other rings.
Yeah. So while
like, he's playing entirely off of Sarah's freaking lack of information.
Yeah.
She knows that, you know, Hell has them outnumbered substantially, but she doesn't know that Vox only has a small fraction of the population actually behind him.
Yeah, and it's not even every sinner. You know what I mean? The polls are lying to you again.
Yeah, he doesn't even have all of
not every sinner is, you know, at this rally. You know what I mean? He has some of the overlords, and what do you think a reasonable estimate is? Like 20% of the sinners might be behind him. That's probably reasonable. You know what I mean?
He probably has at least half or more of Pentagram City behind him at this point. And Pentagram City is the biggest city in the Pride Ring. But once again, he only has influence over Pentagram City from what we've seen. He doesn't have any influence in Imp City, any of the other circles, anything. Friggin' the Pride Ring is the largest ring. It is massive. And there are sinners scattered throughout the entirety of it.
Yeah. So it's just going off of everything that Vizzy has pointed out about this. It doesn't make sense. And he did, you know, show his hand better with, you know, what he did with Angel and stuff like that. But that's, once again, he now has fired his big cannon that Valentino is not a fan of the design. Probably wanted it to look more phallic or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not nearly phallic enough.
Yeah. So either way, it's just the logistics of a lot of the stuff that he's doing doesn't make sense, and it kind of like made more sense when they revealed the whole Angel spy thing. But I think that was it. I don't think he has anything else. That was like the biggest thing he had to gather information. You know what I mean? I don't think he probably has.
He probably has more plants around the place to gather information and stuff. Like, that's why he has the information on Carmilla and so on. But once again, really, information is basically all he has going for him, and really all he's playing on. Like, he has information and he has the weapon. That's really all he's got going for him. He's basically entirely playing on the bluff of trying to get Sarah to just surrender.
Yeah.
To the idea of it, and hoping that she will just back down rather than have the potential massacre that would be an all-out war.
Yeah. Which, once again, my biggest question is, are they just going to keep firing the cannon, I guess? So why do you need numbers if you're just going to keep firing your cannon?
Well, they need numbers to defend the cannon from a potential counterattack if they start firing.
Yeah, I suppose. But still, there's a lot of holes in this plan as far as I'm concerned, but that is what it is. But either way, do you think Baxter's really on board? Maybe he's just sick of Fox Tech, I guess, at this point. That's why he's hung around so long. Actually making an attempt.
Well, yeah, once again, his whole thing is he came here because he is genuinely interested in the idea of redemption. And, like was said, it's only a legitimate experiment if you actually try.
Yeah. And
so
I guess
he is genuinely trying.
Right. And I guess because they have showed him genuine kindness in room service, that's all he needed. Sometimes that's all it takes, right? So it's definitely kind of an interesting way to look at something. It's like sometimes somebody just needed to give him a sandwich, you know? Bring me a sandwich every couple days and I'm going to feel a lot better about myself. You know what I mean? Whatever it is. You know, bring him a coffee or a freaking, like, it doesn't matter what it is. Thank you card. Whatever, you know. Ask him about the Yankees and how bad they are. It doesn't matter.
From what we know, it seems like friggin' Baxter's relationship with Vox Tech is basically just that he is just the exploited scientist of, like, he's probably responsible for a large portion of their technological advancements and's gotten no recognition for it.
Yep.
So he's just kind of doing his own thing now.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how they pull off this tech thing. Because again, that was like one of the questions that I had is like, Lilith has a device that can go through dimensions. Why does nobody else have this?
Well, the answer apparently is just Lilith is Lilith.
Yeah, she's magic.
Yeah. Apparently, yeah, there's no like legitimate two-way communication that's been established. It's just freaking Vox pirating Kevin's TV channels.
Right, which, sure, why not? That was definitely interesting. But, you know, as for the rest of this, it'll be interesting to see what they do with Angel. We know there are multiple more seasons coming. Bare minimum, at least 2 more. So, where do we end the V stuff here? Is this it? You know what I mean?
We'll probably end Vox here, but I don't think the other Vs are gonna be written out. Like, Valentino's probably gonna still be a major, like, obstacle for Angel's redemption.
Yeah.
Though obviously his biggest obstacle is going to be resolving his family issues, because we still haven't, like, got proper introductions to his brother or sister yet. And we still don't know, like, the reasoning why he would have killed his father.
Right. The only thing we can do is speculate because it was like a mob family, like mafia, and he probably was forced to do it. So while it is probably one of those gray areas of I had to kill the asshole father. I had to do it, otherwise it would have been worse kind of situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the only thing we know about his family situation is just, once again, that he was part of a mafia family. He's killed his father. His brother was a dick and also ended up in hell. And his sister was apparently, according to Vivzy, too good for this world. And so when she died, she went to heaven.
Yep. And we've seen her twice. At the end of St. Peter's Welcome to Heaven song, in a sort of complete model, but during the Serpentious Welcome to Heaven thing, she was also there, and I'll throw that up in when we do the wrap up thing. I'll throw up that still that I have of that for her, because it's obviously her. So there's no.
Yeah, we've also seen his brother once at the end of season 1 during Katie's news broadcast announcing that Adam is dead and whatnot.
Yeah. So I think they have a lot of stuff to cover in the finale, that kind of thing. Obviously, we've Valentino heard what Vox was saying here and stuff like that, and obviously these two have their plans for just they seem to genuinely just want to keep the team together for whatever reason. I don't know why. I guess they just want to be the V's, which is totally fine. If you just want to always be the V's, there's nothing wrong with that.
Once again, Velvet actually wants, friendship and partnership, like a group to work and rely on. And from everything we've seen, Valentino genuinely does have feelings for Vox. Vox keeps it downplaying it's just a business relationship and stuff like that, and it's clearly toxic and exploiting him, but Valentino genuinely does seem to actually have feelings for Vox.
Yeah.
Which is a big part of why he is so upset about the whole thing of Alistair coming in and just monopolizing all of Vox's time.
Yep. It's definitely an interesting situation. Since I was super out of it, I don't know if we saw any more of what we're assuming are Rue's eyes in this one. Have to go check that out again at some point. We'll probably do a follow-up theory episode after in a week or two, just talking about other stuff after we watched everything again. But
yeah, they didn't really draw any attention to them, but they're in basically every episode of both Hell of a Boss and Hazbin. They are just a constant thing everywhere in Hell.
So anyway, I'm excited to see how this season finale wraps up. Again, circling back around to how we're not getting all of Hell. I don't think we're obviously not getting all of Heaven either, because the big question is, where are the rest of the Archangels? Obviously, for story reasons, they're not around. I get it, but I kind of am going to be very interested to see, bare minimum, what the hell has Michael been doing this whole time? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think he is probably going to be a fairly prominent figure at some point because of who he is.
Yeah, we'll probably get more of the Archangels and the Seraphim and stuff like that eventually. My going theory, once again, is still that I don't know if I've ever actually mentioned this in a video, but I know I've talked to you about it. The fact that Heaven probably has a similar layout to Hell, and that there's multiple realms to it based on the different afterlives, and each realm is ran by a different batch of Seraphim and Archangels.
Right. So it could be something
what
as
we've seen so far. And what we've seen so far is basically just Heaven's equivalent to the Pride Ring. What's the entry point?
Yeah. So it'll be kind of interesting to see. I had that random theory of Michael is that kind of Venture Brothers theory is wait, you want me to go deal with that guy in Hell? He's part of my Thursday night poker game. I'm not doing that. That kind of situation. Or it could be if Age's theory is correct, he could be just somewhere else in one of the other realms. You know, like he could be hanging out in Valhalla for some reason. You know what I mean? Something like that. You know, just doing something. So that's kind of the... We've seen more of Hell and Hell of a Boss, obviously, so we kind of know what's going on in the other rings. But if that heaven theory pans out, it'll be interesting to see, like, what the reasoning... And most shows that do stuff like this, that have characters come in that are prominent, that you figure are going to be a big deal in later seasons, that's usually explained in some way, shape, or form. It's like, well, then where the hell were you while all this was going on? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just imagine Michael and like some of the other archangels and seraphim and stuff like that are just off busy running their own realms of heaven, and would probably jump in if all-out war was declared, and like the entry way to heaven is like a threat to actually fall.
Right.
But until then, they're probably just too busy dealing with their own issues.
Yep. Somebody needs to get St. Peter a giant shield that he can just kind of like put up and, you know, teach him how to parry or something. Instead of just being the door guy. But
you know, Peter parries the next laser with his teeth.
Yeah, see? There you go. Then we can have another teeth parry, and that'll be 3, and we'll be good. But, yeah. There are a couple other things that I could mention, but again, we'll probably do like a big follow-up episode after we do the next episode for the season, and do kind of like the pseudo season wrap-up. But especially for this show, we're probably going to come back in a couple weeks like we did the first time and do kind of like a, hey, this is stuff that we noticed, and let's talk about stuff that could potentially be coming kind of situation.
One random thing I will mention that I've personally noticed, and part of why I keep saying that, like, I'm pretty sure Velvet is really attached to the other two and like wants to actually keep this whole thing going, despite once again her being stronger than the other two and fully capable of going off on her own if she felt like it, especially with, you know, like how Vox treats her. As you can see in this image here, you can see her doll joints. Any other time you see her, except for when she's alone with the other Vs, she's always wearing clothes that cover up her doll aspects.
Yep.
Like she's ashamed of it, or it has some sort of like personal shenanigans to it that she doesn't want other people to see it. But she has no real qualms of showing more skin and her doll joints and stuff whenever she's around the other two Vs. So she clearly has some level of trust with them.
Yep. So there's a lot of stuff going on. One final thing that I will mention, and I did talk about it before, is it seemed like when Vox name dropped Carmilla, there's something obviously up with her. There's more to her story. Like, you know, there's a bunch of running theories that she's a fallen angel. I don't think it's that. I think the more likely situation is if you look at her daughters, they're very different. So yeah. I'd wager to say that she kind of had the forbidden relationship with an angel of some kind. You know what I mean? And something happened.
Yeah, there's something, because her daughters are both very different from each other visually, and they're almost always bickering with each other about something. Like, yeah. They very clearly draw attention to them being very different from each other, and oftentimes opposed.
Yeah. Because, once again, Vox was going to say he was going to say something about her, and then Lucifer was like, yeah, I don't know who that is, whatever. You can name drop somebody I don't know, it doesn't matter to me, and then it just kind of trailed off. You know what I mean? So there's something there. Just like with the previous episode, with whatever that thing on the desk is, and I'll really look into it. But I'll like freeze frame it when we're going through the big like wrap up thing. Is like what is in that box on her desk that she looked at when Vox pointed out what she's lost. Because at first glance I was like, are those wedding rings? Like, what is that? You know what I mean? So we'll take a really good look at it. So Carmilla is another mystery that needs to be solved at some point as well. So there's a lot going on, and I'm too dead to talk about this anymore. We got to go do the next episode while I'm still reasonably alive, and then, you know, when I'm more alive, we'll talk about this more. So people on YouTube, that's going to be it for this one. We're going to go immediately jump into recording the next one, and that will come out tomorrow, as always. So see you tomorrow for the next one and the season wrap-up stuff. And we'll do a big, like, theory crafting something or other in the next couple weeks after we've, like, really deep dove and, like, you know, frame studied stuff and, you know, go full, you know, sports ball. I got to study Tom Brady's playing patterns to see how he throws the football. see what crazy stuff that we can find in just the background and stuff like that. So we're gonna go wrap this up. So people on YouTube, as always, we appreciate you. This was Hazbin Hotel Season 2 Episode 7, and we'll see you tomorrow for the season finale. So have a good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it is for you. Have a good one. See you next time.
Hey everyone, Victoria here. If you enjoyed the video, please consider pushing those like and subscribe buttons. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thanks again for your time, and we hope to see you again in the future.